So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. A little bit late, but here we are anyways. Usually broadcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday on YouTube. And that would be Prepper University and Coffee Talk at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. But of course, there was some problems today, so I am late. It is where I am, 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 hours and 20 minutes past the scheduled time due to circumstances beyond my control. I had put out a notification earlier in the day, warning, hey, it may not happen today because of outages. As I wait and see if anybody pops up, everything came back up. So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and jump in and get this done then, if that's it, if that's how this is going to go. And basically you can thank Xfinity, which is the only provider where I am. I have no choice as far as I know because of where we're located. But the area in other pockets of like Lithonia and Conyers and other places had outages today in Georgia, and as a result, no internet. Now, my wife and I typically get up about 5:30 in the morning, and it was up then, but then sometime after 6, it went down, and it pretty much stayed down until about 20 minutes ago. You know how you know the cable company doesn't care about you? They don't reimburse you for when they screw it up, do they? I see that Monkey is here, as well as Sven. It says late start, yes indeed, and Lantern of Liberty from Florida. Starlink, I haven't heard of Starlink, Lantern. Making suggestions there for other possible services, but of course, you know, it is what it is. And you're at the mercy of the cable company anyways. It makes me think of the President's Analyst with James Colburn. Was it 1967? James Colburn? The President's Analyst, it's a comedy, but there's a lot of warnings about AI and the phone company and stuff like that in there. Even back in the 60s, they were worried about that because the phone company, of course, was trying to use electronics to take over the world. And there was nobody really actually there. They thought they were talking to people, but they were machines. So, yeah, if you have not seen The President's Analyst, I recommend it. Not exactly post-apocalyptic, but makes the point nevertheless. But of course, like I said, also I'm on Fistful of Radio, and I do read through the comments if I'm able to, for the benefit of people who are listening and not able to see. And you know, obviously, audience, I don't think, not at this time, and beyond it too. Look, I'm already getting warnings. I got an orange warning just now about connectivity. So prayerfully, this doesn't like screw up here. Again, for anyone who's just tuning in, I was not up at my regular scheduled time because there was outages that ran all the way to like 6 in the morning from the cable company. So I was not able to get online. And I'd set up the live stream, but with Restream, but then I couldn't even go in and cancel it. I did a post from my phone, letting people know, hey, this may not happen. They were going to have an open slot, and they would have had to play back something that one of my older podcasts as a filler. And yeah, I had another orange warning there. So hopefully we'll stay connected here. And there's Fluke Man. He says, what a coincidence. I actually forgot to watch the podcast today. I decided to search for your saved video. It turns out you only just started. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But, you know, we may as well go ahead and start jumping into the news. And you know what the big news, of course, is. One of the big things is the opening ceremony of the Olympics, which was a huge embarrassment, pissed a lot of people off, which the Olympic Committee has now apologized for. They're apologizing for it. And yeah, Flukeman says anyone having problems, it keeps on freezing. It might be the connection. There might still be some residual issues with the connection, because I did have two of those orange bar warnings on here about connectivity. So we will see. But yeah, if you saw the opening ceremony, it was pretty bad. And it used a lot of drag queens, and it was pretty nasty. This is a Daily Express article, and the Olympic Committee, on one hand, they're apologizing for it because of the massive backlash that they got. It's about as bad as when the NFL had Janet Jackson, and she had that wardrobe malfunction, and everybody was pissed at the NFL and said, hey, you need to clean this up. And the next year they brought in Paul McCartney. And you can thank the NFL halftime show. If you ever wanted to be grateful for the NFL halftime show, you can thank In Living Color. For those of you who are not old enough to remember the show In Living Color, prior to them being on the air, the NFL halftime show was just marching bands and bullshit. Nobody watched it. And the In Living Color, it's a historic moment actually in television. In Living Color did their own halftime show, an impromptu, well, not impromptu, it was planned for, but basically, hey, we're going to come on as a special during when the halftime show starts, so you can watch us instead of wasting your time with the halftime show. And it was like one of the most viewed things in television in history. Everybody watched In Living Color. And after that, the NFL said, well, shit, we can't let that happen again. We can never let some other network special knock us out again like that. So then they started really getting elaborate with the halftime shows. But this is just like with that fiasco where it got really sleazy. And now just recently with the BET Awards, people have been beating the hell out of the BET Awards because of how just raunchy and nasty it was. It was already bad anyways. You didn't have to be disgusting about it. And Sven says they lost $1 billion in future funding in one day. That's why they're sorry. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about this. And there's a lot of excuses being made for what went on there. And I'm going to pick that over. Again, Daily Express article. Olympic chiefs apologize for the sleazy drag queen parody of Last Supper. Okay. The organizers of the 2024 Olympics in Paris have apologized for showcasing a drag queen parody of Leonardo da Vinci's famous artwork, The Last Supper. The display was featured during the opening ceremony, with many figures depicted in the painting being replaced by performers in drag queen costumes. There's so much to say about all of this. That looks pretty disgusting to me anyways, but I did see one really funny meme of the heavyweight. Oh, I'm having issues there with the image. The heavyweight there in the middle, and where she's doing a heart there, they replaced it with a cheeseburger. And I thought that was pretty funny. And Flukeman says, I always enjoyed certain Olympic events, but I'll avoid it because of their blasphemy. You know what I thought was interesting is Snoop Dogg with the opening ceremony torch. And I haven't watched the Olympics in forever. Isn't it traditional that you use former athletes? I don't have anything specifically against Snoop Dogg. I don't know much about him. But, it seems to me that it shouldn't be just a regular entertainer. And Donna Beaver is here, says, remember, thumbs up, likes, and share. Almost had a dyslexic moment there. Much appreciated, Donna. I'll take all the thumbs up I can get. Article goes on to say, The woman at the center of the display, where Jesus was positioned in the painting and spotting, wearing a crown, surrounded by drag queens, transgender dancers, and others, and at one point flashed a heart to viewers. Towards the end of the showcase, a tray was placed at the table with a blue-colored, scantily clad man appeared from within. That person does not identify as a man. There's a whole weird thing with that blue man. Says he's a woman. Almost immediately, religious figures took umbrage with the display, which seemingly pokes fun at one of the most famous religious artworks of all time. Many on social media expressed their displeasure with the piece, while many Christians and Catholics believed the segment mocked them. With the firestorm growing, Anne Deschamps, a spokesperson for the 2024 Olympics, shared an apology in response. Her statement reiterated that the display was not meant to disrespect any particular group, despite what was depicted during the opening ceremony. Clearly, there was no intention to disrespect any religious group. Yeah, clearly. I'll tell you that it was, and we're going to get into that. Deschamps said during a press conference, the opening ceremony sought to celebrate tolerance within the community. Please, we tolerate enough of this. We believe this ambition has been achieved. We are very sorry if people were offended. You don't care. On the other hand, Thomas Jolly, the artistic director of the ceremony, that's not his real name, made it clear he did not mean to offend any specific group or person. Rather, Jolly attempted to depict a scene of unity instead of one of division, which the piece seemingly created online. No, it did not seem to do that. Our subject was not to be subversive, Jolly said in a press conference after the ceremony. We never wanted to be subversive. We wanted to talk about diversity. Diversity means being together. Yeah. We wanted to include everybody, as simple as that. In France, we have freedom of creation, artistic freedom. We are lucky in France to live in a free country. I can't tell. You been to France lately? It's been nonstop riots for like 5 or 6 years now. I didn't have any specific messages that I wanted to deliver. Also, France is a socialist country. They don't have very much in the way of freedom, trust me. In France, we are a republic. Really? They're socialists. We have the right to love who we want. Here we go. We have the right not to be worshipers. Yeah, we have a lot of rights in France, and this is what I wanted to convey. It's hidden right in his comment here. I'll read it again. In France, we are republic. We have the right, here it is, to love whom we want, alphabet agenda. We have the right not to be worshipers, anti-religion. We have a lot of rights in France, and that is what I wanted to convey. You have those rights in most of the Western world, quite frankly. And they talk about how it's Dionysus who arrives on the table. He's there because he's the god of celebration in Greek mythology. The idea was to have a pagan celebration connected to the gods of Olympus. You will never find in me a desire to mock and denigrate anyone. Now, he points out god of celebration. That's equivocating. It's partially true. Partially true. One of those like half truths or 10th truths or whatever. Dionysus was the god of, if I remember correctly, and anyone knows this for sure, they can, because Greek mythology was a long time ago for me. The god of excess in celebration, wine, orchids, and insanity. Correct? I'm trying to remember. And Puck has joined us. And Sven reminds us they didn't mock Muhammad. No, they wouldn't have the balls for that. It's always Christianity. And Muslims are far more strict about this kind of stuff than Christians are. Lantern says, why are we and you calling mentally challenged men, women, and her? I don't know. Monkey says, I remember that one of the drags that looked like a messed up Smurf had his balls hanging out. Yes, that was supposed to be Dionysus. Or a Baca, the Latin name for it. And Sven says they have no rights other than those granted by their government. They are subjects, correct. And Lantern says wine. Yeah, that's the main thing with Dionysus. Fluke Man says obviously they intended to offend people. That's why they didn't dress someone up as Muhammad. If they had done, the Muslims and left wing would have torn down Western countries. And Dragon says at this point Russia felt honored to be barred from participating. Now I want to clarify that. Greek god. Dionysus, and let me just see what it says. Okay, there it is. Greek god of mythologies, Dionysus. Ancient Greek god of wine, vegetation, pleasures, festivity, and madness, and wild frenzies. So not just celebration. That's really sugarcoating it. That is really sugarcoating it. And let me switch this so that you can see what I'm looking at. This is one of the reasons somebody suggested to me I could have done the live from my cell phone, but then I can't share the stories. You know, then I like to be able to show people what I'm talking about so that they know I'm not just making it up. And I think that's really important. And is this it? No, that is the wrong image. On here. That's the one I want. I'll pull this up and I'll share it with you so that you can see what I'm looking at. And it's under the title Greek mythology right there. Dionysus, ancient Greek god of wine, vegetation, pleasure, festivity, madness, and wild frenzy. So he was the god of orgies, basically, not celebration. That's really sugarcoating what Dionysus represented in Greek mythology. That's really, really sugarcoating it. They knew damn right well what they were doing. They really did. And the person who was blue, painted blue, and yes, his balls were hanging out, who was playing the Dionysus, is a dude who identifies as a woman. Okay? He identifies as a woman. And he absolutely believed that he was mocking. And I'm trying to find his. Yeah, that's real important. I need to be able to share this really quick. I'm going to go. I have this saved, and I need to share this with you so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. To prove, because they apologize for it now and they make all these excuses, but it's not the truth. It is absolutely not the truth, and I'm going to demonstrate that here because I'm going to go to that person's. Let me see if I can get this to open. Their social media. Here it is. Let me get this image to open up for you. This Barbara Butch is what this person calls themselves. Okay, one more from Helter, and then I'm going to show you this image. And it's from this guy's social media account, and he put it up right after the ceremony, and the Olympic Committee told him to take it down, but which he did, but it's too late. It's on the internet. You can't hide anything out here anymore. Helter says they didn't just mock Christianity, they stole the opening ceremony from the athletes. Good point. I haven't heard a single word about a single athlete. They made it all about themselves, which is selfish and which is the objective. Here it comes. So this was shared on social media, and then it was taken down, and then it was put back. Well, it's been circulated again because it's been exposed. Barbara Butch, the woman in the center, posted this photo. Oh no, I'm sorry. Barbara Butch isn't the blue guy. Barbara Butch is the fat one. Posed in this photo and posted this photo to her Instagram, admitting the photo had everything to do with them mocking scripture. She then deleted it a few hours later and changed it to the Feast of the Gods. Now, the first question says, oh, yes, the New Gay Testament. And that's the image there where it's split with the Last Supper on the left. She was told to remove it. She took it down, put it back up, or put a different image back up on Instagram. And now it says, we'll forever be proud to support this moment of art reference, the Feast of the Gods by Jan Hernandez. Yeah. So she admitted this. And what I can tell you from my own experience, dealing with these types of people. I brought it up before, and many of you are aware that in the early 90s, I did an interview series for the Boston Phoenix newspaper. Excuse me. And I interviewed tons of people from this community, mostly gay men, but some drag queens and some transmogrified people as well. They do this kind of stuff on purpose. That was admitted in the interview. The flamboyancy, the outrageous public displays, things like this, many of them do on purpose to gauge reactions from what the so-called normal people. For example, and this one guy, one in particular comes to mind, one interview, and this is this guy. He was a bodybuilder, actually, but he was a gay guy. And he didn't look flamboyant, but he sounded it. His voice, he had that voice, you know what I mean? And he said that one thing that he would like to do is when he would, out walking in the park, if he is with a friend, he'll start talking really loud as people pass him and talk about things that are really disgusting to get a rise out of them. So if you can imagine, and this is the example he gave, a couple's walking and they're pushing the baby carriage, and then I'll start talking to my friend about slopping down on a dick just to get their reaction. They do this stuff on purpose. Don't let them fool you. I don't care what they say. I don't care what the hell they say. It's unfortunately, it's in the culture. Fluke Man says it's a shame Japan, Korea, Poland, Russia, or another non-woke country is hosting. And Spectre wants to know where I was. Well, I had explained it a little bit earlier. There had been a connection outage out here that started shortly after 6 in the morning. So all day up until about 20 minutes before I came on, there was no internet in this area. And Puck says the G stands for gratification. Yeah, I'm not surprised. And there's Urban Angst. Dragon says it's almost 70 countries where gay is illegal, yet America gets accused of being homophobic. Yeah, there you go. And Spectre said we had a long chat without you. Did you? Did you? But yeah, I mean, she admits it right here. She admits it right here on her Instagram. She deleted it because she was told to, and changed the image and caption. But it's too late because, like I said, you're on the internet. You can't hide nothing out here. Not anymore. Not anymore. Oh, Fluke Man said, sorry, I meant isn't hosting. Yeah, because they wouldn't have allowed it. They wouldn't have allowed it. But a westernized country, absolutely. You can get away with that kind of stuff. But they absolutely do deliberately instigate people. They think it's funny, or they want to play the victim when they push somebody too far. So you can't tell me that this was unintentional. She admits right there that it was. She admits right there that it was intentional. Then you get idiots like this, and I'm going to bring this one up. This has been circulating all over the place. Lantern says, what if some people in the park lose their mind and kick the guy's butt? That would be awful. Yeah, but then he's a victim now. Oh, he attacked me because of my gender preference. You see, that they would love that. And the interviews were being done because of gay bashings that were happening in the Boston area at that time, 1990, 1991, 1992. And back then, gay bashing meant somebody got the crap kicked out of them, not that you were just using bad words. It meant somebody got beat the hell out of, okay? And that's why they were conducting the interviews. And the interviews were dropped. The data was buried. The articles never took place. They never got printed. And the reason, there was two primary reasons. One, because once you read through that material and look at their honest responses, you're like, God, we can't print this. No one will have sympathy for these people. And two, because it turned out it was other gay men that were beating them up. The more masculine type, as it were. Because back then they weren't all flaming. Let's just put it that way. Back then there was a group that if you talked to them, you wouldn't know. They looked and sounded like anyone else. And they did not like the flamboyant counterparts because they thought it drew too much negative attention, and they beat the hell out of one whenever they got the chance. And Spectre says, when you get the time, look at the beginning of the chats. You might get a laugh out of it. If I could find it, okay. I can't see it here. It's only showing me in Restream from where I started. But yeah, I'll go back and take a look if I get a chance. Urban says, Charlie Hebdo just did a small cartoon of Prophet M, and we all know what happened in Paris. In response, that's right. And there's John Boy. He says, sorry, I'm late. No, I'm the one who's late. I'm the one who's late because of a cable outage. But let me go ahead and share this. This is what they're circulating, okay? And this is how they're trying to redirect you. Here we go. And I have seen even in social media, ministers passing this around. I'm a minister, I'm a pastor, and I'm appalled at people who don't understand Greek history. All right, so let me read this. It says, it wasn't the last summer, which is housed in Italy, not France. No one said it was. It was the feast of Dionysus, Greek god of festivity and feasting and ritual and theater. And we just read what the actual description of Dionysus' godhood was. This is not it. The Olympics are from Greek culture and tradition. French culture is deeply rooted in feasting and festivity and performing arts. And so they show this painting where there's people having a wild orgy at a table, naked men and women frolicking here, and little kids and dogs. Take a good look at that painting. It's pretty weird. And then down here, we got Dionysus laying on the table with his junk hanging out and a bunch of drag queens. And so they're saying that it's not a depiction of the Last Supper, even though they said it was. They implied it was. We just read the comment from Barbara Butch, who is the woman with the big headdress in the middle of the table behind the guy painted blue, behind Papa Smurf here. I'm insulting Papa Smurf by even saying that. All right, it says Feast of Dionysus, Greek god of festivity, feasting, ritual, and theater. That's not what it said. That is not the correct definition of Dionysus' lineage. Okay, that's not who he was. It was wine, vegetation, pleasures, festivity, madness, and wild frenzy. Uncontrolled orgy is what he was the god of. Like, everybody's drunk and high and having a wild orgy. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. You can't tell me that it did not occur to somebody, okay? It did not occur to somebody to look at that. Someone on the committee or someone on the panels, because they must have wasted $1 million on freaking panels. Hey, this kind of looks like the Last Supper setup. Are you sure this is a good idea? They knew damn right well what they were doing. And Tuck says, what the heck? Yeah, this is the excuse they're trying to throw out there now. And I see that Raccoon has joined us. And Rodney is here and made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Very much appreciated. Always helpful where the critters are concerned, all the stray cats that we take care of. And he goes on to say the Olympic opening ceremony was freaking degenerate. The media defending it are just as perverse. And Puck says, bullshit, where's the halo in that painting? Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I'm describing this, because again, it's been a long time since Greek mythology days, which they don't teach anymore. That's the thing. I've been reading articles. I'm a minister and I'm appalled because this is clearly not the Last Supper. People don't know their history. They don't know their Greek mythology. Well, you know what? No, they don't. They don't know their history and their Greek mythology because public school doesn't freaking teach it. They don't teach it anymore. Are you learning Latin and Greek mythology and Western Civ 1 in high school anymore? They used to teach it. You're not learning that now unless you go to a classical private school like Care Parvel in Topeka that I had sent my son to years ago when I still had custody. I had him in Care Parvel, traditional Latin school. You know, those kids were done with all the state requirements by the time they were in 10th grade. And the last 2 years in that high school, 11th and 12th grade, was college prep. And they could speak Latin. And they knew the Greek mythology. But you're not learning this in public school. So no, they don't know. And this is why you can fool people with drivel like this. Because that's what that is. That's drivel. This is a lie. And they're using it to confuse people. It wasn't the Last Supper, which is in Italy, not France. No one said the Last Supper was in France. I don't know why it says that. It was the feast of Dionysus, Greek god of festivity and feasting and ritual theater. No. Ritual theater as in like human sacrifice or sexual offering. Okay? That is not a clear or accurate description of what he was the god of. Again, wine, vegetation, more specifically orchids, pleasure, festivity, madness, and wild frenzy. Wild orgies. And more to the point here, ancient Greek god of wine. Dionysus is the god of winemaking, orchids and fruits, vegetation, fertility, festivity, insanity, ritual madness, religious ecstasy. That's a better description. And Sven says, I like to frolic as much as the next guy, but this was gross. Yeah, it was gross. It was unnecessary. It was pandering to that specific group. It's pandering in a way I'm sick of seeing. I'm sick of hearing about. I'm tired of pretending like this is normal. Well, I don't pretend like it's normal, but society does, because the media does, and politicians do, and celebrities do pretend like it's normal. It is not normal. And we're expected to pretend also like it's normal. Oh, I got 2 cats. Little girl just joined me. Little girl, everybody. For those of you who can see. There's a little girl on the printer. Again, she's the next one up for adoption. We just haven't been able to do it. And where is she? There she is. And Jane's not here to see it, but there is Granny Smith sleeping next to the fish that Jane Spitfire sent to our P.O. box. Sleeping next to the fish. The battery in that thing, well, it's chargeable, and it died the other day, and she was freaking out. She was circling it and yowling like she thought it was dead. It was the funniest thing. It was the funniest damn thing. As I catch up here, and Sven says, I've read the classics. This was the Last Supper. That's what I would, that the other painting does not remind me of what I saw on that boat. And as I pointed out earlier, They know exactly what they're doing. They like to trigger people so they can play victim or so that they can mess with you. I'm also sick and tired of that. And Puck says, seems like the degenerates are trying to resurrect Greek mythology. It's the approval of their behavior that they've been looking for. Exactly. And Flukeman says, off topic, one of the biggest news in the UK, 2 cops tried to arrest a Pakistani man. His friend punched both cops and got tasered. One of the cops stamped and kicked the attacker on the head on the ground. Was that at the airport, Flukeman? Is that the incident at the airport? Because I did see some video footage of somebody getting kicked in the head in an airport in London. And Urban Angst says, I don't think they set out to purposely offend Christians, but they certainly showed less cultural sensitivity than they would to illegal migrants defecting openly or defecating openly on the street. I do believe they set out to offend. That's my opinion based on experience with, again, with my interview series. And then that put me completely off. You know, I was more open-minded before the interviews. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, my God, I don't want anything to do with these people. They're appalling. They're appalling, and they do it on purpose. And, you know, that has led to a lot of other problems in France. Never mind the embarrassment of the Olympics. The Olympics is a big lie anyways, because I know everybody wants the Olympics to come to their town. Oh, we got to get them country. We got to get them to come to our town. We'll make all this tax revenue. We'll get all this money from, it'll bring money into the communities. If you go and you look and you read the reports, which I have, on how it actually looks when the Olympics comes to your town, you lose money. You cannot make back enough through local sales and tax revenue and everything to compensate for the damage that's done. Plus, you're stuck with things that you can't get rid of. Like out here, Atlanta hosted the Olympics in 1996, and they built that horse park. It's over in Conyers, huge place. They can't do anything else with it. And there's rarely any horses out there. They still use it occasionally, but it doesn't make enough money to justify having been built. It's destructive to the communities that it's set up in. You don't make money. I wouldn't want to host. If I was like senator in somewhere in Atlanta or in Georgia or whatever, and they were like, oh, the Olympics might come back, and I'd be like, oh, no, I'm not signing that. You'll lose more than you gain. And Flukeman says, since they did it to offend people and to get reactions, what if everyone just ignored them? I know that to be impossible. Just suppose it did happen. Well, that's what they tell you, and that's the argument that was made about so-called shootings en masse. We'll put it that way to confuse the evil robots that listen to us. Is there was psychologists early on in the 90s when it just was starting, because, you know, when we were kids, we never saw anything like that. That they said, you know, these people are doing it for attention. They want to be the next big guy. They want to be in the papers. They want to be on TV. If you stop pandering to it, if the media would stop pandering to it, you'd see less of it. And that makes sense, psychologically speaking. But, you know, the media is going to blow it up. The media will blow up everything that they can get their hands on if it sounds like they can make it sound bigger than it is. And this is an Associated Press article. Vandalism hits communication lines in France, but the Paris Olympics are not affected. And I had heard also that there was blackouts in Paris affecting several areas of Paris, but they refuse to confirm it. They've been kicking that around for 24 hours now. One agency says there was blackouts in Paris. One agency says, no, that's an exaggeration. So which is it? So here we go. French government says multiple telecommunications lines have been hit by acts of vandalism affecting fiber lines and fixed and mobile phone lines as cities around France are hosting events for the Olympics. Organizers for the Paris Games say their operations were not affected. France's second largest telecommunications company said it had made repairs in several areas already, or workarounds kept the scale of the impact low. Other companies were working on fixes. The vandalism came after arson attacks hit train networks around France on Friday, hours before the opening ceremony. Let that sink in. And they talk about how they're a republic and they have freedom. Okay. And they're not. Again, they're a socialist country. It's total chaos. They haven't been really standing tall since World War II. Marina Ferrari, Secretary of State in charge of digital affairs, posted on X that the damage in several regions overnight, Sunday to Monday, affected telecommunications operations. She said that led to the local impact on access to fiber lines and fixed and mobile telephone lines. A French police official said there were issues in at least 6 of the country's administrative departments, which include the region around the Mediterranean city of Marseille, hosting Olympic soccer and sailing competitions. Paris organizers said they have been informed of acts of sabotage on fiber optic networks across several French departments, but we can only confirm that there is no impact on the Olympic operations. I don't care. I wish it would go down at this point. Just more embarrassment for the French government. I can just guess who's doing all of that. And Flukeman says, was Olympics profitable in the 50s? I don't think it was as mass marketed in the 50s. Then it was still about amateur athletes. It's really blown up since professional athletes are allowed to participate now. But back then, when it was just amateur athletes, most of them fresh out of college, had never been paid a dime for doing anything athletic, because that was the requirements. Puck says Olympics used to be good when they had traditional sporting events and were not so commercialized. And Sven says they let men like playing women's sports like basketball, so it's all a joke anyway. Oh no. And I'll see if I can find something on the blackouts, because I'll pull that one up as well so that you can see what I'm talking about with the blackouts, because they were trying to cover that up forever, acting like it didn't happen. Come on, Restream. It's been a long day. So this is a Christian. It might be a little biased, but I'll get the point across. That's the most important thing. Well, it should be a Christian Post article if it opens. Anytime, Restream. There we go. Paris goes dark day after the botched Olympics opening ceremony, the Last Supper. It says Paris, France. Parts of Paris, France were struck with a blackout over the weekend, 24 hours after the Olympics drew global backlash for its opening ceremony that detractors claimed mocked Christianity and the Last Supper with drag queens. Approximately 85,000 Parisian districts were affected by the blackout that lasted 10 minutes at 11:40 p.m. on Saturday night, which the electricity supplier Endis chalked up to a technical anomaly. Footage of the blackout went viral on social media, with many users also pointing out the striking image of the Basilique du Sacre de Montemare, or the Basilica of the Sacred Heart of Montmartre, remaining brightly lit in this. So first they said it didn't happen. Now they're saying it did happen, but it was only 10 minutes. And they have no explanation for the blackout other than an abnormality in their system. And Loyal Tangi says, I don't think the Olympics have ever been profitable for the host city, not with all they do to prepare. No, I don't think it has either. You're doing it for the prestige and you're doing it to build people out of tax money. But as far as profitable for that city, I don't see it. And I've actually read statistics on it because those statistics are available. Again, the Olympic Committee is going to sugarcoat it and be like, yeah, it'll be great. People will come from all over the world and spend a ton of money, and it'll be great for the community, and you can tax the crap out of everybody. It doesn't go over well. It really will not go over well. Speaking of not going over well, more lies. Hold on here. I'll catch one more from Dragon. He says, I'm inclined to chalk this up to collapsing infrastructure across the Western world due to lack of investment, but who knows? Maybe there is some ethical force at play, say like Jesus smiting Paris. Yeshua smites Paris. He rides in on the white horse. Actually, if you really, really read that carefully, it's not Yeshua on the white horse. It is the Father himself that comes and slays. That's why I always wonder about people talking about how God loves everyone. We actually heard this. My wife and I were attending something at a church here recently, and the prayer was talking about God loves you no matter who you are or what you believe or how you practice. And I'm like, really? That's not what the Bible says. We're not coming back here. But they believe that. And it's like when you get raptured away and then you come back with Jesus because everybody's going to be a king somehow and you're in your white robes. And what do you think you're going to be doing while a third of humanity is being slain by the rider on the white horse? Who, like I said, the Bible does not imply that it's Yeshua. Urban Angst says if it was arson, then it wasn't climate change unless it's the political climate. There you go. There you go. But yeah, firebombs in subway stations and sabotage of phone lines and fiber optic lines and so on. I'm not surprised there was a blackout, but they don't want you to see all that. But that's how it is in Paris anyways. That's how it is in Paris anyways. I guess they thought that they could rein that in long enough to get the Olympics underway. Evidently not, but they sure are doing a great job of trying to cover it up. They're sure doing a great job of trying to cover it up. Cover-ups. And Puck says the Olympic Committee received a fat DEI check for that intro. I bet you they did. I bet you they did. They sold their souls, as was suggested earlier. This is a Reuters article talking about Kamala Harris. It says Kamala Harris campaign raises $200 million in a week. I don't believe it, but I'm going to read the article. Washington, Kamala Harris election campaign said on Sunday it has raised $200 million and signed up 170,000 new volunteers in the week since she became the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, as Republicans continued to hammer Harris over her work as vice president. What work? What has she done? President Slow Biden ended his re-election bid on Sunday last week and endorsed Harris for the November 5th vote against Republican former President Trump. Quote, in the week since we got started, Kamala Harris has raised $200 million. 66% of that is from new donors. We've signed up 170,000 new volunteers. Harris's deputy campaign manager, Rob Flatterly, posted on X. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This is money laundering at its finest. Never mind the fact that like almost 90 million of the funds that they claim were donation. 90 million, because they claim to have gotten the biggest donation in history in a 24-hour period with, what was it, 87 point something million? That was Joe's money that they transferred to her, which is not legal. That's not the proper channels for a sitting president to release his war chest, as it were. There's procedures for that, and they bypassed those procedures, and there's pending investigations for that. and I guess they're gambling on that those investigations won't have taken place by the time that she gets into office. If she polls over the past week, including one by Reuters, shows Trump essentially tied a close-fought campaign over the 100 days left until the election. Again, I don't trust polls, but I am sick and tired of everything looking like a damn tie. I don't believe that either. For the last like 4 or 5 years in the U.S., everything's a damn tie. Trump's campaign said in early July it had raised $331 million in the second quarter, topping the $264 million that Biden's campaign and its Democratic allies raised in the same period. Trump's campaign had $284.9 million in cash on hand at the end of June, while the Democratic campaign had $240 million in cash on hand at that time. Harris has secured support from a majority of delegates of the Democratic National Convention, I bet, likely ensuring she will become the party nominee for president next month. Quote, so our vice president is the presumptive nominee. We will have the official vote on August 1st, Democratic National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison told MSNBC on Sunday. And it goes on to talk about why it was that Biden withdrew from the race. And I have heard that that it's almost essentially a coup. It's almost essentially a coup that was done. That he was threatened. That Biden was threatened with the 25th Amendment by and Obama was involved, and that Harris was involved, and others, and that's why he finally gave in, which would make it a soft coup. Yeah, Tuck, he said maybe the 2028 Olympics will feature the San Andreas surprise rock show. Wouldn't that be something? And Urban says in the series Breaking Bad, there's a scene where his criminal lawyer describes how to use his cancer treatment fundraising to launder the drug money in parallel. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. But what has she done? What has she accomplished? She's being run on the basis that she's colored and female, or a person of color, rather. Because she calls herself African American, but she's not. She's not, no more, even less so than Obama was. Spectre says it's for the future cheat. It was so close, there'd be no argument. Yeah, you have to try to make it plausible. You can't let her win by a landslide because nobody will buy that. And you have to do it in a way that nobody would be willing to admit they didn't vote for her if she did win. You know what I mean? There's a joke about U2, the band U2, that it says, turns out nobody liked U2, but nobody wanted to admit that they didn't. Same thing with Harris. Who's going to sit there and say, oh, I didn't want to vote for a woman or a black person? Because that's what you'll be accused of. It won't be that they didn't do the job. And they're doing the job even less than you think. I thought this was really interesting, and I wanted to share this on the whole Bidenomics and its structure. It says manipulate economic data each month, and this is what they've been doing. Like April, May, and June is depicted here of this year. April jobs, 165,000 reported, 108,000 revised. So it was off by 34.55%. May jobs, 272,000 reported, 218 after the revision. So what they do is they put out their jobs report every month. Oh, we added 200,000 more jobs to the market, which basically is that many people fell off of unemployment. And then they revise it later. They revise it later, and the number's not the same, but they don't tell you about the revision. So Bidenomics equals manipulating economic data each month to make the economy appear healthy, then restate the data for the following month so the new data doesn't appear that much worse. It's a Ponzi scheme where the schemer is given a do-over each month. Biden is running a Ponzi scheme to cover up his horrific economy. And that's been going on pretty much the entire time he's been in office. But nobody is revealing this. Every month they lie about the data on the economy, making it look good, and then they post a revision a month or two later. Greatest president in U.S. history. And Puck says Biden won fair and square, according to Dominion. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. According to Dominion, as Stalin would say, it's not who votes, but who counts the votes. Nature Nerd says, why would France, a Catholic majority country, host the Olympics and mock the Last Supper? Pandering. Is France really in charge, or is it the European Union? Also, this was set up by the Olympic Committee. It was set up by the Olympic Committee. And they're woke and sorry. And as was pointed out here, they knew exactly what they were doing. Spectre says, if one does not apply for unemployment and when it runs out, they still have no job, none of that is counted. Yes. But I'll put this image back up because she was caught, and that's Barbara Butch, which I doubt is her real name, who is the heavy woman in the center of the table in the position of Jesus, and getting basically outed on Instagram. Her original Instagram post on the left, and then the replacement post on the right. But again, of course, this is the internet. You can't hide anything anymore. The original post shows them on top of the Last Supper portrait. And then it says, oh yes, the new gay testament is her caption. She was told to take it down. She complied. She replaced it with the image on the right, who talks about how she will forever be proud and support this moment of art reference. Because, again, now they're pretending that they were emulating the painting of the orgy of Dionysus rather than the Last Supper, which we compared those images. They do not look the same. It says Barbara Butch, the woman in the center, posted this photo to her Instagram, admitting that this had everything to do with them mocking scripture. And Urban reminds us that France has not been in charge for some time. No, well, they fell apart ever since World War II. They've never really recovered from World War II. They become a socialist government. And it's been all downhill ever since. Once again, before we wrap up here, here's the image that they're claiming it's supposed to represent. And you see a painting there of people, naked men and women and naked children and dogs having a sex orgy on a table, which is just as bad. And it says it wasn't the Last Supper, it was the Feast of Dionysus, the Greek god of festivity and feasting and ritual and theater. But of course, if you go and you look up what Dionysus was the god of, that ain't it. He was the god of wine and excess and wild behavior, basically the god of orgies. Basically the god of orgies, not what they're claiming there. But, you know, You can't expect them to tell the truth, can you? You can't expect that. But anyways, there we go. We are at the top of the hour. Sorry for the lateness, for the delay today. Again, there was an outage in this area that lasted all day. Oh, and there's Cyberjack Senior giving a thumbs up. There was an outage that lasted from like just after 6 in the morning all the way until about 20 minutes before I came on in the cable in this area. But I finally made it in here and I went ahead. You're late, Cyberjack. I'm late. And we're about to wrap up actually, but it should be saved. So thank you everybody who joined us here today. Special thanks to Rodney who made a donation to the channel. Always helpful. Hope everybody got something out of the conversation.